Hey everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar, back behind the drum kit. I found out that a lot of my subscribers love to watch my drum videos as well. So it's kind of cool. I'm putting a whole drum section in my website pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be great. But I thought about it, and it's sometimes weird how I get video ideas. Sometimes they'll just hit me at random moments. And the other day I was out walking in the middle of the woods, basically, listening to Kiss's Creatures of the Night. The drums have this awesome room sound to it, and it's Eric Carr back there just bashing away. Well, I came to the song called Saint and Sinner, and I haven't heard that song in a long time. And in that song, Eric Carr plays this really awesome shuffle. And it's one that I don't think I've ever heard before, so I'm going to refer to it as the Eric Carr Shuffle today. Anyway, besides never really hearing a shuffle like it before, I noticed that it sounded like he was using one hand on the hi-hat. And at the speed the song is at, which is about 130 beats per minute, it's very difficult to play up to speed through the whole thing with one hand on the hi-hat like I believe he's doing. Now, it's true that I cannot prove, unless I get a hold of the producer, I can't prove that Eric Carr played it with one hand on the hi-hat, but if you listen to the isolated track of the bass and the drums, you could kind of hear by the way the hi-hat inflections are that it's being done by one hand, at least in my opinion. What do you think? I couldn't find any live footage of the band playing it live. I don't know if Kiss has ever played it live. Actually, I texted Bruce Kulick to ask him, and he's like, you know what? I can't help you on this one, because when I first went in to see them, they were mixing I Love It Loud, so they were already done with Saint and Sinner. Little name drop right there. But anyway, so he wasn't able to help me on that front. So slow, it would be like this. It's pretty playable slow. Let's go up to actual tempo and see what happens here. See how much faster that is with one hand playing on the hi-hat like that? It's very difficult. Now, if you spread that out through the entire song, by the end, you're just like, oh my gosh, kill me. So I looked up a couple covers and I saw one guy actually just playing it on drums and another was a band playing it. And the way they played the shuffle was they used two hands. So they went something like this. I'll do it slow first. Now here's where the idea from my video came in. I thought, you know what? They're playing it an easier way, more efficient, but it loses some sort of power when you do it the easier way. I don't know if you agree, but let me do it full speed so you can see. Here's the two-handed version. One-handed version. There's something about having to struggle a little bit to play that gives it a certain feel, a certain vibe. Now, if you're familiar with Eric Carr's playing, you know that he really drives the beat whenever he plays. To really rock it and to be able to get my body to move in the motion I want it to really drive the beat, I can only do that really by doing the one hand on the hi-hat. Once I go to two, it falls apart for me. Now, I have more examples of this concept. One of them is kind of a topical example because it's Tom Sawyer by Rush. And I found out today that they're actually going to be touring again. So this is like the huge news right now. My whole feed is full of Rush. And I thought about Tom Sawyer's the same thing. The hi-hat being played with one hand. Neil's just going crazy on that thing. Rock solid, of course. Even though the song is around 88 beats per minute, I kind of just timed it by ear. It's still tough to keep that hi-hat going the whole way, but doing it with one hand seems to be the only option to really get that tightness. Now, this would be really dumb, but the option to do the alternate hands would sound like this. It sounds pretty weak to me. Now, I know a lot of people are like, you know what? If you practiced enough, you could really get that to dig in. But I've tried, and I can't, even if I give it all of my effort, I can't make it sound the same as the one-handed version. Okay, another example is the song I Keep Forgetting by Michael McDonald. Okay, that groove, Jeff Porcaro's playing it, and he's one of the best with the one hand on the hi-hat, and he does it so effortlessly. You know, actually practicing this taught me some really cool wrist techniques to really get this moving. But yeah, he insists on the one hand as well.
I don't like playing 16ths with two hands sometimes, unless it's so fast that you can't do anything else, because it don't feel right to me.
Okay, so at 95 beats per minute, you get this. Check this out with alternating hands now. A big part of it is that I can't get my body to do that motion that really makes the groove feel right to me. It also is harder to make the dynamics match. Here's what I mean. If you're doing one hand on the hi-hat, it's going to be consistent. If you're doing, you get two different tones out of it because you're hitting it with two different, hands. I don't want to be going versus going. My final example is very timely as well because I'm starting a Sabbath Ozzy tribute type thing. And we're working on the song Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. And at the end of the song changes tempos and it goes into that real marchy kind of feel. And Tony Iommi is actually doing all downstrokes for the riff. It's pretty insane, pretty intense for the guitar part, which reminds me to tell you that this concept is for other instruments as well. So the Sabbath beat, Bill Ward does this really cool thing at the end, and he works way harder than a lot of drummers probably would. So over here you have Tony Iommi doing downstrokes on that riff. Well, Bill Ward holds his own by going like this. So the feet just kind of keep the quarter note thing. The hands go like this, eighth note triplets together. Now that might not seem tough at that speed, but once you go the real speed of the song and you do it for as long as Bill Ward does, it gets pretty hairy. Okay, so it would be more like this. Now, what would be the easy version of that? Well, I've seen a couple different ways before from other drummers. One time, I actually saw a guy go like this. Which is funny because it does kind of sound like that on the album, but there's actually the snare going on. Another way to do it is to do more like a circus beat or something, but speed it up. That could work too, but it still doesn't hit like this. Okay, so let me know what you think about the differences in the hard way versus the easy way. Now, I understand sometimes you're going to play a long set and you need to conserve energy. Sometimes it makes more sense to maybe switch hands, as long as it's worth the payoff, because sometimes the song's not going to sound nearly as good that way. Or if you're like me and you try as hard as you can not to do that just because you're stubborn. But either way, it was a lot of fun talking about this concept, and hopefully it can help anybody out there who's like, why should I do it the hard way when, there's this other way to do it that's way easier? Hopefully that question has been answered. Let me know in the comment section and I will catch you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.